Started. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag's over here in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then Lulu will do our land acknowledgement for us.
As we gather for this meeting, let us take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place, and in doing so, recognize the various traditional lands on which we do our business today. We wish to acknowledge this land on which this SPC meeting is taking place. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Hohokam, the Akimel O'odam, and most recently, the Salt River Pima Indian community. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many indigenous people from across Maricopa, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on this land.
Thank you, Lulu. So this morning we have our question and answer with Dr. Menzel for 15 minutes. And then we have Margaret Cerna here today. She's the SUSD Executive Director of Title I. So she will tell us how Title I impacts not just the Title I schools in our district, but the full district. And then we have a few of our executive board updates and some committee updates as well. And then any SBC representatives, if anyone has an announcement about their school they would like to make, you are welcome to do so. So we will dive right in with Dr. Menzel. I only have a handful in here, so if you have questions, please just bring them on up. How are you this morning?
Good, thank you.
Okay. My student is struggling with anxiety, and I'm concerned with some of the rhetoric around social emotional learning and the student well-being. What can parents do to support SUSD in meeting students' social and emotional needs?
So I think you know that this year, for the first time, we have school social workers on each of our campuses, thanks to a grant from the Arizona Department of Education. Shannon Cron, and I believe she's spoken to this group before, oversees much of our work in this regard, not only the school social workers, but psychologists as well. We believe that it's really important to be able to provide comprehensive support for our students who need it. So there's many students who have, whether it's anxiety or other behavioral challenges, there are opportunities for us to provide wraparound support, and there are many resources. My recommendation is to work with the building principal and or with Shannon Cron on specifics in order to be able to address those concerns.
Okay, thank you. And actually, our next general meeting in December, Shannon Cron is joining us along with Matt Linz, and they're going to talk about the district's social emotional learning program that they've implemented this year. How much time does the district spend filling Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests? Are these from many different people, or is it more a matter of a few people submitting many?
That's a good question. So in Arizona, they're called public records requests, or PRRs, and we have a person that spends almost all of his time responding to public records requests. I've had conversations with colleagues in other school districts, and while it's not uncommon for a public records request to be submitted, the number that we get in Scottsdale seems to be significantly higher than what many others deal with. And we are in the process of putting together a data dashboard with respect to the number of public records requests we get, how much time it takes to fill those, and the frequency of users. So there are some people who are regular requesters of information, and there are some people that may submit just one request and be done. And so there's kind of a wide gamut of public records requests. Sometimes you'll get them from organizations. So the Goldwater Institute, for example, will send public records requests to all the schools in the valley. And then there are individual community members who will do that. And so it kind of covers the waterfront. But it is a very time-consuming process.
Okay, thank you. Those are the only two questions in my basket. So who else has? Here we go. Thank you. Since children can be vaccinated, what will be the protocol for close contact to a student who tests positive for COVID-19? Will they need to be quarantined for 10 days if maskless but vaccinated?
So Right now, the guidance from the health department is that individuals who are vaccinated and are close contacts, whether or not they wear masks, are not required to quarantine unless they're symptomatic. So that's the current guidance from the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. I also know that they're in the process of looking at changing their protocols, potentially with a pilot project yet this calendar year with maybe some shifts in January. I don't know exactly what those will be, but schools across the valley have expressed their concern and frustration with quarantine guidance. So if you track the data and you look, and other districts have this even harder than we do because we're not quarantining as many as, say, a Deer Valley or a Peoria or some others. When you look at the number of students who subsequently test positive that were required to quarantine, it ranges in one of the districts from 0.5 to 3.5%. So it's a really small number, but the educational impact of having kids not in school is a significant concern. And so in my conversation with Dr. Sonnenschein, I reiterated that, as have my colleagues. So we're hopeful that they'll have something that's actually more reasonable as we head into the new school year, because that is a concern for all of us. We should not be excluding kids from school. It's really important for them to be there. We don't want them to get further behind. We have to take steps to avoid, major outbreaks and massive spread of COVID. So I understand that there's a balancing act, but what we're doing now is really not sustainable for the long haul.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
You got a couple.
Okay. Why aren't we using the cameras in the classroom, which would help with children that are sent home to quarantine? Other districts are using their cameras for this purpose, like Chandler School District. A lot of funds were used to purchase to help students that is now going to waste. Our schools have been,
So to the first question, it is happening in some places, but it's teacher directed when that happens. So we haven't required people to just turn on the cameras. Some teachers have chosen to use that option. We provided the varsity tutor support as well as teacher tutoring options while students are out of the classroom. Depending on the grade level, it makes a difference. So if you turn on a camera in an elementary classroom, it really still doesn't provide the same level of instruction or access. It may if you're looking at a chemistry lecture or something else. And so we've not required teachers to do it. We've encouraged those who feel comfortable and want to be able to do it to utilize the technology. And Dr. Guerin can provide the full suite of what we've put on the table as support for students who are required to quarantine. But if you look at our numbers on a weekly basis, last week we had 26 students who were required to quarantine as a result of close contact with someone on campus. There were a few more related to off-campus cases, and related to that data, they had someone in the family who tested positive, which is why there are some additional requirements to isolate. But our numbers are down significantly from what they were before, and we're working with our teachers to make sure that our students don't fall further behind.
Our schools have been declining academically over the last several years and are among the worst in the nation. What are we doing to focus on and make significant improvements in our academic stance?
So I would challenge that assertion in a number of ways. I would like to know what data that's based on. I've been looking at a lot of different data, and when you look at even last year our assessment results compared to others in the Valley, and including some that people say, these are the ones you should be benchmarking against, whether it's a Chandler or Gilbert, Higley, you can talk about Peoria, Paradise Valley. We compare favorably. Is our achievement where it needs to be? No. Well, and nationally, what metric are you using for national? So here's a... I understand that Arizona's achievement data, if you're using NAEP, if you're going to think about what is the national data set you're using to compare school districts, NAEP is one, which is a sampling, and you don't get that at the building level or classroom level or even district level data. You get state level data on NAEP, so you can't use that to judge Scottsdale Unified School District. ACT is the closest to a national data set, but not every state gives ACT, and not every state gives it to every student. In fact, in Arizona, we didn't start doing that until 2019. So if you look at our ACT scores in Scottsdale Unified before we gave it to everyone, we were at 25 when the national average might have been at 20. And that was for every school building in the district. When we started giving it to every student, then those numbers differed, but we're still above the national average on ACT. So if you think about the college readiness indicator, ACT, for moving on, we outperform the national average, and we're higher than many of our competitors. Again, not where we want to be, but we're giving that assessment to every student in their junior year. So we're committed to using data. We're starting the ACT Aspire this year, which is a preliminary indicator of college and career readiness. And the ultimate measure is not only how our kids do on tests, because tests are one indicator, but we look at the National College Clearinghouse data with respect to how many students enroll in post-secondary education, how many persist. And so that differs by high school. And we're continuing to work on how do we create meaningful opportunities for successful transition from high school experience in Scottsdale into post-secondary learning opportunities and or high-quality career and tech ed opportunities. Because if a student leaves here and they've already secured a career credential because they've gone through EVIT, for example, and they move into meaningful employment as a welder, that's a success, right? Because we need people to do all sorts of work. So the response is that, when we look at where our kids are along the continuum, we have many that are outperforming state and national averages. We have some that are struggling. As a system, we're working on how do we ensure that we've got the supports in place necessary for all of our students from the time they enroll through graduation to be prepared for college and career. That's the goal. I agree that Arizona, when you compare nationally, is really struggling. We're also 49th in funding for public education. Public education is constantly under attack by many people in the political arena. So there needs to be a different narrative. Right now, and I came from a competitive school of choice and charter environment where parents can enroll their kid anywhere. In Arizona, even more money leaves a traditional public school district and goes to some of these other options because Arizona has the ESA accounts. So we haven't invested in a robust quality educational system. What we've said is we are going to let the market decide. And in Michigan, after 25 years of that experience, that didn't drive improvement. It redirected scarce resources from traditional public education. And in some cases, when you don't have accountability for charter authorizers, and you've seen this in Arizona, they've started and they've stopped. Somebody made a buck, but in terms of what happened to kids, it's a challenge. On the flip side, there are high-quality charter experiences, and I'm not opposed to choice. I think we have to be able to compete in this environment. We have to provide exceptional educational experiences for all of our students in every building. There should be a quality guarantee regardless of what school you're enrolled in. But under-resourced schools struggle to be able to attract and retain talent. We are serving every student regardless of their ability or disability. That is not necessarily true for all of the competition. So there are a lot of variables that come into play. That's not an excuse for where we are in terms of our achievement. It's just saying that this is where we are at the moment. And our goal is to move Scottsdale Unified School District to being a world-class, future-focused environment for every one of our kids. And my hope is that we have partners with our parents and with our business community and with others in the state to advocate for schools to be able to do that.
Thank you. So this one says, comment, not question. Dr. Menzel, thank you for your courageous leadership during these trying times. You always put our children as your priority, and it is appreciated. And then last question, can you please clarify if varsity tutors are only for quarantine students or any students? Also, how many sessions can students use?
So we started with quarantine students and then expanded that opportunity because we recognized that the impact of the pandemic was more significant than just someone who might be quarantined this year, and that depending on the disruption from last year, if they're struggling just to access certain content, that's opened up to any parent who can request it. It initially, again, started with, I think, 6 sessions. We don't have unlimited resources, but right now, I think I believe what is the case, and Dr. Guerin can confirm at some point, is that we're providing the support on an as-needed basis. At some point, if the demand becomes too great, then we might have to put some parameters around it, but right now I believe that it's open based on need.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, thank you again for your time today, and he joins us every month, so.
Well, thank you, and if there's anything else, you know how to reach me by email or let's talk, and I appreciate your engagement and participation in this meeting today and in your individual schools as well. It's really important. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, I'm happy to introduce Margaret Cerna. She's SUSD's Executive Director of Title I.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you about our extraordinary Title I department for Scottsdale Unified School District. But before we start, I'd like to introduce my team. When I first decided to take the job as the Executive Director of Title I Services, my main goal was to get as much of those funds into the classroom, into the school. Therefore, when you look at our department, we're kind of a party of four, and we do quite a bit. So my department falls under Dr. E.B. Hagigat, and Dr. Creekart used to call us partners in crime. And sometimes when I tell her, E.B., I have an idea, she goes, oh, terror. But she's very supportive, and so many services for our kids, especially at our Title I schools, have come about in support from Dr. Hagigat. Next, this is my right hand, my left hand. This is Sean Crozier. Dave Prinsky still doesn't speak to me because I stole him from Tanalea. And he is just an expert at technology, but most of all, he brings his teaching experience in Title I schools to the plate. And when we go through and we start describing some of the things that we've done, it has come a lot from his expertise. And this is Mary Norton. She is our administrative assistant. She's been with us for 3 months, and she is incredible, and don't anybody try to recruit her. So that's our team, and again, my name's Margaret Cerna, and I want to give you just a little bit of my background so that you can understand maybe why I have taken this job and the things that we have done. I've been in education, now don't be shocked, 43 years. And of those years, I spent 15 years as a kindergarten teacher. And then the next, I was the principal at Tavon Elementary School for 23 years. And for various reasons, Tavon became just a role model of an exemplary Title I school in the state. When results-based funding first came about, Tavon Elementary School received $263,000, the highest of any elementary school in the state. So that was pretty awesome. And plus, A label and A+. And at that time, we were close to 70% free and reduced lunch. So when anybody comes to me with an excuse, I say, I have it right here in black and white where I can show you that it can be done. And then I've had 5 years at district office, 2 years in the Isaac School District as a federal and state director, and then 2 years, going on 3 years in Scottsdale as district office. So all of my career has been in Title I. And when I came from Isaac School District to Scottsdale School District, all my colleagues are saying, traitor, you're going to the rich school, you're going to the #1 district in the state. And I said, yes, I am, but they do have a Title I population. And whereas sometimes we like to hear of all the positive things that are going on in our district, we have to always realize that in some different sections of our district, the struggle is a lot harder than in other parts. So therefore, we have our Title I monies. They're federal monies that come from the federal government, and it is based on how many students or families live in our district that fall under the poverty line. Now, when I first came on the job, 3 years ago, our numbers were about 26% of our families qualified for free and reduced lunch. Now that has dropped. It has dropped to 16%, but that's because of the drop of enrollment. That's because the housing has become so incredibly expensive in Scottsdale that our families can't afford to buy homes or even the rents. Are all of you familiar with the Paiute Center? It's, for a long time, it was like low-income type of housing, pretty decent size, a decent amount of rent. Well, it's been bought by investors. They're fixing them up and have tripled the rent. Not double, tripled. So you can see all these effects, then add on the pandemic. That's one of the reasons our numbers are down. But that doesn't mean that we're not working as hard as we can. We have made sure that our money is in the classrooms for our most needy population. Okay, so what is the purpose of Title I? It's equity for all children regarding of race, socioeconomics, beliefs. We believe that every child should have equal opportunity. We want to assure that we give them the same high-quality education of any one of our schools in the district. What you see at Laguna, we want to see at Tonalea. What we see at Chaparral, we want to see at Coronado. But what we need is the funding. The funding, okay? Ensure proficiency on challenging state academic standards. And I'll tell you, when we went into the pandemic, I was so disappointed that we were not going to be taking our, what is our test? Yeah, the science aims, all of that was canceled. And we had done some mock tests at some of our Title I schools, and we were moving forward. And the pandemic came just in time to kind of knock us down, but I'll tell you, those teachers are working their hearts out because they are trying to compensate and help the students that have been out of school for so long. And let me give you an example of what our teachers are up against right now. My granddaughter is now in 2nd grade. She started in kindergarten, and she was in kindergarten for 3 months before we went online. Then we started 1st grade. Altogether, we did approximately 4 months. Now, she finds herself as a 2nd grader only being in school 7 to 8 months. So these teachers are having, and this is not just at Title I schools, it's all our schools. They are having to really work hard and put more, an urgency of what interventions we're giving our kids. And to me, I don't even want to call it an intervention. I would say catch them up, okay? Title I designated schools receive federal funding to supplement student academic programs and services. My first interview for a teaching position, the principal asked me, what does it mean to work at a Title I school? I was 21 years old, I didn't know. I said, well, I just gave them the answer, help kids, I want to see them learn, I want to see them grow. And at this time, I worked in the Isaac School District, which is one of the highest poverty school districts in the state. And he says, when you become a Title I teacher or you work in a Title I school, you have to be able to have a commitment to try and provide as many services for our students that their parents can't afford. And so when I was at the Isaac School District, I didn't know anything about after-school programs and, ballet classes, dancing, STEAM, all those things. It was never available to us. But Title I has made it to where we can do that, joined with other funds. Help families to connect to the schools, connect for nutritional and social emotional services. And most of all, and this is the one that I really want to put strong emphasis now and in the future, is increase family engagement. Because there's a fallacy out there that the parents from Title I schools, that they don't care, they don't come to the meetings, they don't do this, they don't do that. Well, it's several different reasons. It could be cultural, it could be financial. I mean, I've seen some families that between the mother and the father, they're working 4 and 5 jobs just to make ends meet. And trying to make those ends meet in Scottsdale is an extra challenge. Okay? We have 9 Scottsdale Unified School District Title I schools. We have only one high school, Coronado High School, and then we have one designated middle school, Ingleside in the Arcadia complex. We have Echo Canyon, that's K-8, Tonalea, K-8, and then Pima, Taban, Hoho, Yava, and Navajo, they are all of the elementary schools. Our annual budget is $2,545. I mean, what? $2,545,230. 80% of that money goes directly to the school. The administrative is very minimal. As you can see, there's not very many of us. 20% of our money goes to indirect costs for staff and management of the programs. I'm going to go over some examples of the programs and events that have become new to Title I schools in the last 5 years. We have Title I elementary schools, innovative mind science kits that are going to be available and ready to go in January. How many of you have had your children go to Camp Invention? Okay, and you know the cost of that's what, close to $125 a session, right? So we sat down with Barb Reinhardt, who at the time was the coach for science, and we said, why are we paying all that money to a vendor? Why don't we develop our own program? So we looked at all our elementary schools, and we purchased the kits, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a couple of slides. Coronado High School's Mind in Motion celebration, we sponsored that. We also sponsor parenting classes at Ingleside Middle School, and those are classes where parents can earn GEDs, where they have kinds of classes about parenting, financial, whatever the family needs, we try to accommodate and help them. Tonalea School Pride Nights, and I have to tell you something about Tonalea Elementary School. I'm in the process right now of nominating them as a model school for parent engagement. I mean, they are incredible, all of the events and programs that they have to support the parents. And we all know the more actively involved a parent is in their child's education, the more likely they are to be successful academically. Echo Canyon, the garden and chef partnerships, which has kind of been put on hold because of COVID, because it's all about growing in the gardens their own vegetables and fruits and everything. And then we have chefs that come from all over the valley and work with the kids. So we're hoping that gets going again. I'm also going to talk about other site-specific parent engagement activities throughout the presentation. Okay. Also, we have the Ingleside Tonalea Summer Fine Arts Band Camp, and I will explain more in a couple of slides. Navajo's STEAM Showcase. Navajo now is a STEM school that's based on the recruitment of students interested in the sciences. Pima's Parent Math and Literacy Nights. Hohokam and Yavapai's Nest Parents Education Classes, and Taban Elementary Parent University. Now, these are all held at Title I schools, but we open it up to whoever wants to come. Like if you have a specific thing, if you want to do family finance, you would go to any one of the schools at the time that's offering that. Okay, this is the one that I most am proud of. We call it Beyond Move On When Reading. Now, the state adopted a policy that was first started in Florida that said if a third grade child is not competent in reading, they should not move on to fourth grade. But the difference between Florida and Arizona, Florida funded it. Arizona just said do it. So we all know that. And then we worked very diligently with the State Department to find out what the formula is. What are they looking at to say, is it our AIM scores? Is it our SAT-9 scores? What are you looking at? And nobody can give us an answer. So we said, well, you know what? If you're not going to tell us how you do it, we're going to do it the way we believe it has to happen. Because when we had kids that were identified beyond move on when reading, there was 11 that were designated by the state. We all know we have more than 11 kids in our district that can't read. So that's where the program is called Move On When Reading. We put beyond in our title of our program because it's additional services that are offered for our kids. So we want to ensure that all students are reading at grade level by the end of third grade. It's a dream. That's what we'd like to make it happen. But if we can't make it happen, we need to prove to the state the interventions that we have taken. And the interventions we do are phenomenal. I'll get into that a little bit later. Two things that this started out really as a program to assess our kids, know who were the ones that really needed the help. But then we found out very quickly we had an issue happening. We had a progress monitoring issue. And if we had a student that continuously was not proficient in reading, writing, and math, we still continued to pass them on. And then pass them on, and pass them on, and pass them on. Well, we need to make sure that no child falls through the crack. So we have made a form. It's a progress monitoring form for any child that is in our Beyond Move On When Reading program. And we have reading specialists at every one of our Title I schools. Their new title right now is Reading Specialist plus Reading Case Manager. So these reading specialists will be monitoring the children from first grade to 12th grade. And usually the one reading specialist will be in elementary, in charge of all the elementary kids that are lagging. Then they move on to the middle school that also has a reading specialist that will follow them. And then when they get to high school, we will continue to follow them. And it quickly turned into a program from helping kids to read to progress monitoring to holding people accountable. It's just beyond me how a child can get all the way from first grade to fifth grade and go into middle school and not be a proficient reader. And I'm telling you, it doesn't get any easier. It just gets harder and harder. And eventually, most of them, or a lot of them, will drop out if somebody doesn't step forward and say, stop, let's regroup, let's see what this child needs. And with the progress monitoring, even when the child is on grade level, the reading specialists are required to continually make sure that they are on grade level. So they can come in and out of the program. Any questions? Because this one is quite a lot of information about one program. Okay, it also, this is based on the belief students learn to read from kindergarten to third grade. Third grade and the rest of their lives, they read to learn. So if when they're going into third grade and they're on a kindergarten, first grade level, stop. We need to stop, reflect, adjust, and give our students what they need. Now, when you looked at it year one, that was, we're not 30 years now, right? Yeah, year one, we started with second graders going to third grade, and it was 100 students. The next year, we kept those 100 students in the program, added another 100 second graders. This year, we have 300 kids that are participating in the program. And so in the next year, we'll have 400 kids, because once they're in the program, they're in the program. And then it'll continue moving on to middle school and to high school. And this is good. And one thing that we found out, there's a program called Read 180. We found out that some schools in the elementary schools had their students in Read 180. Well, it didn't help because they went already behind to middle school. And guess what they were put in middle school? Read 180. And then when they got to high school, what was the program of intervention? Read 180. And it is at a different level, granted, and everything, but how many times are we going to continue doing what's not working? And the reason is that this was happening. There was no malintention, but we didn't have a history of what intervention the kids got. Intervention means for a while. Your goal is to get them out of the program, not keep them in the program. So when you look, by the end of next year, we'll have 400 kids that are in the progress monitoring program. They are provided before school tutoring or after school tutoring, summer programs, and also now we're moving our Title I schools to also provide tutoring and programs during fall break and spring break. Okay? When we received our first results of Move On When Reading, you want to hear the most astonishing piece of all? The attendance rate online was 96%. Now, what are the reasons that happened? Well, number one, it was pandemic time, and the kids were so excited to be face-to-face, one-on-one with their teacher. We had this one video of a little girl that the minute the teacher came on line with her, she busted into tears. I missed you, I want to go back, and stuff. So how many times, I don't know, in my elementary or middle school, high school career, did I ever have 1 hour with my teacher? No one else, just Margaret. Okay? And with the Beyond Move On When Reading, each clump of services is 12 hours one-on-one with your teacher. We treated the program like you do a doctor's appointment. So once your daughter is accepted into Beyond Move On When Reading, the teacher makes an immediate contact with the parent, and they schedule the tutoring. So they know they have that doctor appointment. They're not online. That teacher's on the phone. And if the teacher can't get them on, the principal is on them, or I'm on them. And 96% online. It was amazing. And then if you are interested in more of the data, please call me, because I'll talk all day about this. I will talk all day about this. We had like a 30 years growth in reading with our kids. There's the growth in Lexile, and 3.85, so like we're saying, like in 12 days, because it's a 12-day program. In 12 days, 12 hours, they grew a third of a year. Amazing. Okay, I want to play a video for you real quick.
School district. This summer I participated in a program called Beyond Move On When Reading. I received 5 students. All 5 students were recommended by their classroom teachers. All 5 students were far behind in their reading. I got to meet with each one of these students. I analyzed their reading. I found their strengths, I found their needs, and I added supports and strategies to help move them forward. One of my students started 3rd grade at a pre-primer level. She ended 3rd grade at a kindergarten reading level. I worked with her this summer, and as of in December of her 4th grade year, she just tested proficient on her ELA benchmarks. I believe that all 5 of these students are set up with reading supports to be able to be successful. We will be watching these students through 8th grade, making sure that their success continues.
This is a
Hi,
kid from Tonalea. Now you want to meet one of her students? This is her.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and this summer I worked with Miss Hart. we practiced reading, and now I'm almost in third grade reading. I used to start at kindergarten, but now I'm in second grade reading. And what we did this summer, we read a lot, and I made sure to get on with Miss Hart every day to make practice reading. And now when I go to class, I'm not afraid to read in front of the whole entire classroom.
That last sentence is the one that, when I first saw that, brought tears to my eyes, because our kids mask the fact they can't read through behavior, through drawing into themselves. There's all kinds of different behaviors that come from that. But to hear her say, I like to read in front of my class, wow. And on the survey, the first year when we asked the kids, do you think this program helped you become a better reader? 100% said yes. 12 hours of a student with their teacher. And we tried to match them up with their teacher because what are the 3 R's of school? Does anybody know? Reading, writing, arithmetic. I say there's 4. Reading, writing, arithmetic, and relationships. You have a student that builds a relationship with that teacher, incredible. They'll work hard for their teacher. They want to please their teacher because when they do that, then they please their parents. But most of all, they find success in reading. Okay? So Beyond Move On When Reading is one new program that we have brought. Another program we brought, it's called the eSTEAM program. And we know we have the STEAM, STEM, we have all these different programs. This is an eSTEAM because if you look at the acronym down here, it means equity, access to science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So can you go to the next one? One of the programs that we're starting is Innovative Minds. That's a science program I was talking about earlier. And what we did is we developed 2 Camp Invention-like, but it's Innovative Minds at Scottsdale, programs. And we have 2 kits per grade that the kids can take. And it's broken up and built exactly for what is on the AIMS science test. All the kits were purchased through Title I, and in partnership with 21st Century Learning grants, we will be able to provide everything free of charge. Each grade level has 2 kits, okay? And it's for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. 5th has 3 kits. All the other ones have 2 kits. That's 9 Camp Inventions, guys. That's a $1,000 scholarship to each one of our kids. And we're hoping that it'll be so successful that we can implement it throughout the whole district. But imagine 10 classes specific to your grade level, and they're all scaffolded. You wait, in 5 years, we're going to have the rock star science scores in the nation. Okay? I talked about that. Also, we're going to start our arts in this. We did an incredible program this summer. We worked and collaborated with Tonalea and Ingleside, and we provided a band camp that was 2 weeks, and this is the beauty of it. You know who the teachers were? The elementary band teacher in the complex, then the middle school band teacher, and the high school band teacher. So the kids rotated between 3 different classes every day. We did that, number one, so they could have that opportunity. They maybe can't afford the lessons or whatever, but they're going to build a relationship to look forward to meeting that middle school teacher, meeting the high school teacher. These are some of the Innovative Mind Science kits, and you can just read through them. I mean, they use, there's engineering in there, there's landscape engineering, solar engineering, a lot of engineering classes. Okay? Okay, with all that said, so we've talked about innovative minds, we've talked about beyond move on when reading, and we've also talked about our E-STEAM. Now, here comes an issue. We are down right now a significant amount of kids that originally qualified for free and reduced lunch. One of the reasons is we think is that the parents know that everybody gets free breakfast and lunch now, so they're not filling out the form, okay? But what they don't realize, free and reduced numbers is what guides nutritional services, but it also guides other things, like our E-rate. We have to be at a certain amount of free and reduced to get a tremendous discount on our E-rate. That's the rate they charge us for our internet. Also, it affects 21st century. We have schools that qualify for 21st century grants. That's $130,000 a year for before and after school programs, tutoring, fine arts, whatever. Each school designs their own. But they have to be at 35% free and reduced lunch. And right now, we have 3 schools in danger. Okay? Why is this happening? Home values have increased, locking affordable housing for young families. Like I said before, not just home ownership, which is close to impossible, but even renting. But if we don't increase these numbers, we have a possible loss of $800,000 in federal funding per year. Now, let me tell you what the biggest bulk of our title money goes for. It's for human resource. Not human resource at the district or anything like that. It's human resource at the school for interventions. We currently pay for all Title I schools to have a preschool. Some of them have 2 preschools free of charge. We also pay for a reading specialist at each one of our Title I schools. So if we don't get these numbers up, we're going to be in trouble. And what sometimes non-Title I schools say, well, what difference does it make to me? You know, it doesn't affect my school. We don't have a high rate, but you do have a rate. I think our lowest rate is like 3% at one school. But it's not just about nutritional services. There's all other types of funds that come to us with Title I numbers. Like, for example, we try our very best to reduce the fees for summer school for our high schoolers. We try to pay athletic fees for our kids that can't afford it. So it's all around. But when we use these Title I funds, what that does is loosen up money in the M&O that can be used at the other schools. It's like a give and take. So I want to ask you all to please do your part to encourage all SUSD parents to submit the income eligibility form to assist our district to secure funding. So I just want to touch on this because it's just a recent information we received from the State Department. It used to be, it was only the free and reduced forms, the official ones for the federal government that we could use. Well, 3 years ago, we came up with our own form in Scottsdale and wanted to send it out to the parents. That wasn't quite as specific as the other free and reduced. And we submitted it to the state for approval, and they said, okay, we'll get back to you. Well, one day Sean is on the website for ADE, and guess what popped out? Our form, our new form. And what this form is, it gives parents 3 options. Either you qualify under option A, option B, or option C. Option A, and it only asks you a range of your income. You don't have to say what your income is. If you fall in A, you put A. If you fall in the reduced, which is a little higher, it's option B. And then option C is no, I don't qualify for this at all. And any ones that we get back to fall under A and B, and a lot of our parents that don't want the free and reduced lunch. They want to feed their own kids. And in high school especially, that's very difficult because the kids don't like having to go to the cafeteria and they see that they get food for free. But now the beauty of it, nobody knows. But where I'm going to need your help is to please go back and advocate with your school parents, your PTOs, everybody. Please fill in the form. It's confidential. We just look at it and we decide. We have this guy qualifies his family for A or B, and then et cetera. So I just saw the pretty haircut. Yes. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
What she was asking, would you be willing to, well, first of all, I have two questions for you. What do you see as SPC's role in assisting what Title I schools need? That's my first question, because I had always assumed, perhaps this is incorrect, but I had always assumed that because there are so many restrictions on Title I of funding, I mean, you're getting more money, but there are so many restrictions on the way that it can be spent within a school that most of our Title I schools didn't enjoy the luxury of having a robust PTO and PTO, however you want to use the terminology, that has kind of unfettered ability to use their funding however they want. So I had always assumed, and again, I don't know if this is correct, that SBC's role would be in assisting the Title I schools either develop their PTOs or step in and do what a PTO would normally be. So that's my first question, if that's something that you're seeing. The other question, which kind of follows up on what she was asking, is would you be willing to put together some lingo or verbiage so that we can go back to our schools and articulate what it is that you're asking for? And I'm going to, as soon as this meeting's over, I'm not going to remember exactly how you want to say it. I'm also not going to remember how to articulate exactly what you said about freeing up the other funding. So I think that's a really important piece, because you're right, most parents are like, well, I don't really, sorry, but like, why should I care about the Title I schools? Well, if we can show them that it will free up other funds and help their child, unfortunately, that's sadly what some parents are more concerned about. I think that would help encourage and have parents understand that if this gets done, it will help your kid. But I know that's a nuanced message that it would be helpful to have some help from you.
Thank you. That question's perfect. I'll answer your second question first. We have a letter that's going out to the parents explaining just what you said. See, when they see free and reduced, they think, I don't want to get into that. I don't qualify. I have, whatever reason. But this letter explains what you just said and then has all the other different services that it qualifies for. Now, let me explain something. You still have what your state and federal mandates are about your students. You have to provide ELD services for a child that is a second language learning student. If a child is in extreme poverty, they should be able to get their free and reduced lunches and breakfast, but they also have to have the academic services. Without Title I, we'd be taking those positions out of M&O. Okay? So if, say when I was at Tavon, I had 25 teachers, 5 of them were funded by the DSEG ELD, which meant that money in M&O is used equally amongst everybody else. Because we have the mandates, but unfortunately when you're 49th, we're back down to 49. 49 in funding for our kids, the money has to come from somewhere. So when they said beyond the move on when reading, Arizona you do it, but districts we're not giving you any money. Where does that money come from?
So just really quickly, I mean, you brought up a good point about how a lot of the Title I funding is tied to free and reduced lunch. And And now that, like, not just our district, but many districts are moving to, everybody gets free lunch, everybody gets free breakfast. Has there been any discussion as to changing the criteria then, based on that? I mean, I know this might be a national question that you might not be able to answer, but it just seems that because these services are being offered more widely because they were needed, it seems like the criteria should be reevaluated.
Well, you know what? Inflation alone, the criteria should be reevaluated. You go to the grocery store and spend $50, $60. Now you go and you spend $100 to $120. Meat has been inflated to 35% from last year. That's this identifier we're talking about right now.
Okay, so inflation would be the identifier versus
No, yeah, but what I'm hearing her say that the criteria should be changed, and I totally agree. And I know that with the new infrastructure thing, there was a lot to help us with all this, but then again, whatever you fund the most is the one that gets cut the most. And we do what? Military and schools. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm from North Carolina, and so I'm living there, and I went to university in North Carolina, so I see what's going on in their schools as well. Yesterday, Wake County schools cannot serve breakfast or lunch due to staffing and free lunches. Are we at that point as well?
We're at that point in not just lunches, in bus drivers, in teachers, and everything. And I know that our board is very, aware of this, and so is our cabinet. But it's just like with this pandemic, guys, and everything that's happened, it changes from Monday to Tuesday. We were ready to start the year, serve, regular lunches and everything. And remember, the kids that pay for their lunch subsidize our foods. So now our nutritional services, they're pretty self-regulated. They support themselves and everything. Well, now it's all free. So there's, like I say, it changes all the time. And when I have my talks with Evie, she always tells me, Margaret, we look at what we have control of and what we don't. What we have control of is the making sure every one of those pennies go into the schools. Sure.
Good morning, everyone. I love that we're looking for an elevator speech specific to this topic. Like, how do we support? One of the slides said that we are anticipating about an $800,000 loss. If that is the case, then that does have to come from somewhere. And this is how we are a unified district, not uniform, but unified. The students still have to receive the services. So if we can get your support with your groups that you're able to directly or indirectly influence and share with them, when these forms come out, and they're coming out either tomorrow or the next day, we're finalizing it with translation, we need your support in helping people understand that this impacts all of us, not just our Title I school or free and reduced. You heard about varsity tutor and all the other supports that we're needing. While we have ESSER funds and other funds, we want to make sure that we keep consistent services instead of scrambling every year after year after year to bring that equity that we know our students desperately need. They needed it before the pandemic. Now we're seeing that need expand to schools beyond our title. So we really need that support when these forms come out so that people understand it's to help all of us, it's not just a Title I problem. It can be, but it's going to spill into more, so we really need that support. Thank you.
Yes.
The form itself, does it have an income maximum and then it just stops there? Because I'm afraid that some parents like to go just overreach if you're asking about their income. So we should have like a maximum, then stop there. But it would be like a C, for example.
Well, we have two. We have to qualify for three, and then you have just to let you all know, I did suffer from coronavirus, and one of it is confusion. Anyway, so it has the different levels. It says, and I would show it to you right now. The reason I haven't is because of, oh. Oh, sorry, I'm talking to you personally. One of the reasons we had, this was just recently available with the State Department. This is the first time in history that they've ever considered another form because it's so tied to federal monies. So it has the range that you make, and you say, you know, and I don't know the numbers, but say if I have a mother and father and 3 kids, and say the maximum that I can make is $30,000, then I would qualify for free. If I made $45,000 in that range, then I qualify for reduced. If I combination make over 50, then I don't qualify.
So beyond that level, they're not asking for more.
No, you just say what range you're in. And then you put the name of your kids. And another thing that will be a benefit to us financially as a whole district, we're going to find out what parents have not filled out the forms, and they do need to fill out the forms in the future, because this, the eating, the free breakfast and lunch, it's 1 year at a time. At any time, they can just pull it, and everybody has to start paying.
I'm new to this level of involvement in school, so do we incentivize families to fill this one out?
That's something that we have to be very careful with, because we...
It has to be money, but is there value? Can, like,
Oh, yes. Well, what we met with the principals.
okay.
Yeah, because we have to be careful. We want the federal government saying that we're knocking on doors, asking people to fill it out. But this is all just general information. It does not go into any database. All they want to know is the numbers. That's all they want to know. They want to know that you have 200 or 300 parents, families that fall under this category or under category 2, or that are able to support their families.
So the short answer is yes, we can.
Yes.
Financially, we can encourage.
Yes, encourage. That's what I'm encouraging you guys.
How many families are you actually?
We have 22,000 kids. I don't know. So, and one thing is too, I forgot to say with the form, it could only, you can do one for each one of your kids, that's fine, or you can do just one per family.
Does it count differently?
No. It's just that we'll have somebody, she has 6 kids in her household, and she's going to fill one out for everyone. You have 6 kids. Oh, 7. Oh, wow.
I'm not an amateur.
That's great. But so you can have either just one that has all 7 kids, but we don't want one that has all 6 kids and then another one for each kid.
We encourage one form per family.
Yeah, and it's all clear on the form. Yes, ma'am. We're hoping in the future, yes. And I know that we're revamping a lot because, again, with ESSER funds, with COVID, everything that's going on, everything changes on a daily basis. But I'll tell you one thing. You have 4 sharp cookies that are on the lookout for any money that we can get. So, any other questions? Or yes? Electronically. Sean?
We're going to make sure that there's leaks available through various methods, including P-Star and whatever. But I am preliminarily working with our district to see if we can specifically mail that out to all parents and email addresses. That's probably the easiest way to make sure every parent gets one of these, is to get it out that way, and then we'll have it available other ways in case email doesn't go through or there's some other issue. Yes.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but I do feel like I get a lot of email from the district, and if I'll tell you this, again, I'm not touching the money, if I see that there's a long letter, delete.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can make it.
That's what the principals told us.
2 to 3 bullet points and no flat. Hi, Bryn, here's what you need to know. Like, get right, I don't need to like,
right there with you, sister.
Yeah, tell me
Here-
something terrible is gonna happen, or like why I should fill it out, like, I mean, if I see that if it's more than 2 sentences, delete.
And we're going to put the hyperlink in the first sentence,
Right. Great.
you know?
Fill this out, or you're gonna get a terrible disease. I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
More of the width.
No more kids for you.
get right to it.
Yeah, okay, yes? Sorry.
One thing that I ran into at the beginning of the pandemic this was when I went online to see the form itself, I couldn't figure out anything to
No. This one you'll be able to do all online. You hit send and you won't have Margaret bothering you anymore.
We will have paper ones available, but it's the second choice, everyone that wants online, we do have live, and we'll love you forever, sure like that.
And, you know, and this is where I need your help, because we don't have a problem with the Title I schools. Our parents know to do this. But it's our other schools that aren't Title I schools, but they have to realize it impacts them just as well, because that $800,000 is going to come from somewhere.
That's what I gotta say. We're gonna take $800,000.
Hey, I'll expect you in my office this afternoon to help me write this letter. Yeah, we will. $800,000 at risk. Oh, man.
No, what she just said,
You-
800,000.
Say it again?
Oh,
sorry, Laura.
I just didn't want to, there's a lot of terminology that goes around in the community that is confusing for people. And there's a lot of fear. And there is a new statute about data mining. And any form that comes out that asks for any information, I mean, I know it's general information, but it's also how can we express this to communities in a way that doesn't feel like it's a trick? Because there is a lot of error. And
Yeah.
data mining is a very confusing term, and I don't think a lot of people really know what it means from the legal aspect. So the problem with forms is it's so distant, right? It's not a conversation. So that's why it's scary,
Absolutely.
right? But
Yeah.
if you have your principals talking to your community
Yes.
and explaining it, I don't know if they're willing to, but I think that one-on-one conversation is a lot more personal and a lot more effective.
I agree with you.
I don't know, forms are scary.
Well, one thing I want to say about that very quickly is this is a form that's been approved by the State Department. Okay, so it's not like Scottsdale's just coming up with it and asking.
In a lot of ways, that's worse, I think, for people,
Yeah.
because they're always afraid of government watching
I understand.
everything. So that's why.
I understand, but I, as a individual, have the decision to make. You know, is $800,000 worth me filling out this form? Yes or no? And it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory.
Say that it is.
We have to move on so we can get everybody out of here. I think that they'll be around. Thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you, EB, and thank you to your whole team.
Phone number up there.
Perfect.
Questions, call me. Most of all, if you have suggestions. How does this get off? You know, sometimes I feel like I'm trying to pull a train, so I need more help. Come on and help. Okay? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. We just have a couple SBC updates to get through in our committee updates. And then, so first we have our budget report. Jane, did you want to come up for this?
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Jane Trapp. I'm the new treasurer, I guess. We just collected some fees from many generous schools, but we still have a list of schools outstanding, which I sent an email late last night. So ask your principals or your PTO president to check if they have not paid or donated, sorry. And then most of our expenses is in translation, interpretation, and that's so we can reach a wider audience and make sure we really follow through the Scottsdale Unified, including the Hispanic-speaking community. That's it. Oh, and everybody knows about Amazon Smile. SPC is listed as on there too, so you can, any time you purchase through Amazon, they put a generous donation to SPC.
Thank you. Thank you. Here's a list of schools that we still need one or more representatives at, school representatives. So if you are from any of these schools, yes. Okay, perfect. So I think, do you just have one rep? Because each school can have 2 reps. So maybe I'll have to. Okay, yep. So there can be, so there's 2 reps at each school. So these are ones, a couple, those Tavon, Tonalea, and Redfield, we do not have any reps. And then the remaining, we have just 1 rep. So there's space for an additional rep at each of those schools. So help spread the word on that. And then for our committee updates. So first we have Kim with the Gifted Education Committee.
We're meeting tomorrow. We'll hear from Karen Brown, and I really would like to hear from all of you as well. You can do that in person at the meeting tomorrow, and then Amy made a really easy link that you can access where you can also fill out or give me suggestions of what you'd want to hear online.
Thank you, Kim. So that's their first meeting, and then out of this, they'll get some ideas for what they want to do with all their remaining monthly meetings as well. And everyone's welcome to that. That's here at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. And then with special education, we have Andrea, one of the committee co-chairs.
So we have an IEP training coming up. It will be both in person at the MDA and on Zoom, so that hopefully everybody that wants to can attend. We're also presently working with Dr. Guerin on organizing complex SPED advisory panels, so stay tuned for more information on that.
And they had 2 meetings this 2 weeks ago, which were wonderful as well. So please spread the word about that to parents, because I know that's a community that is really engaged. And then the Social Responsibility Committee, Lisa and Karen neither could be here today, so they had an update for me. They have had this bully awareness flyer, so they have updated it with a QR code that goes directly to the SUSD incident report form, and they're putting those in the elementary school front offices and then posting them in the restrooms in the middle schools and high schools. They have created a new Facebook page that will educate parents about SEL and the anti-bullying prevention practices and SUSD's policy, because they've been working closely with Shannon Cron to be informed about that. And they have reviewed the SUSD anti-bullying policy, and they met with SUSD's, or plan to meet with SUSD's general counsel to discuss some improvements to the language. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Shannon Cron, who's the Director of Support Services, she'll be at our next SBC general meeting. She will discuss the social emotional learning programs in SUSD, as well as the role of support services. And then with that, did any SBC representatives have any announcements they wanted to present or make? Anybody? Okay, so thank you everybody again for being here, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow night at the Gifted meeting, or otherwise I'll see you next month.